Nobody needs any convincing that we don't live in a utopian paradise. In fact, we can probably all agree that there's something wrong with the world that we live in. We encounter a world that's filled with lostness, with pain and brokenness. But the pain can never be healed because that would take us to admit that there's something wrong. And the brokenness cannot be restored because that would take that we actually admit that there's a purpose to our lives and more to us than mere biology and physics. The fact is, if there's something wrong, then we also have to ask ourselves who's responsible for solving the problems that we see around us. Is it mainly government? Or is it maybe charity organizations or the church? What about you and me? Are we maybe the ones that's primarily responsible for taking care of others? I recently watched a short video by PragerU in which they talked about the concept that a big government causes small people or small citizens. And this made me think about the role or the relationship of government, the church, and normal Christians like you and me who want to see our cities transformed to a place where Christ reigns and where He is glorified. We recently witnessed a tragedy in an informal settlement not far from our church where there was a big fire. And it was interesting to see the different responses that people had to this immense tragedy on social media. Some people looked at this as an opportunity to motivate others to get involved in the caring of those individuals that were the victims of the fire. And others used the time and the platforms that social media gave to talk about the government and how they should have not let the informal settlement be established in the first place. They also used this as an opportunity to say why they should not be involved in caring for those people because it is the job of government. Regardless of your opinion of the politics behind this, people clearly organized themselves into two camps. Those that believe we carry the burden of care and those that believe it's all the job of government. So let's consider what the Bible says about the role of government. We read in Romans 13 that the government is a proxy of the authority that God gives. They're appointed by God. That's why we also read in 1 Peter 2 that they are here to reward those who do good and to punish those who do evil. And we also read that we should be praying for our government because they establish an environment of peace and quiet in which the gospel and people like us can thrive. In a nutshell then, governments are here to create that environment for us to be able to serve God and serve the people around us. When we consider your job and mine as individual Christians, it's very different from that of the government. Governments typically don't love their neighbors. They're not charged with that responsibility. We are. They don't pray for others or introduce them to Jesus. When James talks about what real Christianity is, he says it is caring for widows and for orphans. That's a very personal action and something that we cannot just move onto the broad shoulders of a big government. Lastly, except in very specific circumstances, governments typically don't pray for miraculous intervention in the lives of people and even of the state itself. That, again, is your and my job. As both a collection of people and a formal organization, the church has a huge role to play here. Because as people, we carry the burden of individual care and compassion for the people around us. The church as an organization also has a role to play. It provides a moral compass for government to carry out its duty in the right way. And it also helps with bigger projects, maybe projects that are too big or too expensive for individuals like us to carry out on their own. So, that's what we mean when we say that a big government creates a small citizen. Not that there's something wrong with government. On the contrary, governments are ordained by God. They are here to look after us. But we cannot shift the responsibility of care and compassion onto government. When we do that, we create people who forget what it means to love and to care for others. We create people who think that it is government's job to take care of others, instead of us taking God's care and God's compassion to the people around us. And when we do that, when we show what godliness really looks like, God blesses us and God provides a wholeness to the world around us that is sustainable and so much more than what any government could ever do on its own.